Welcome to a special edition of the Electric Drum. I'm Jose Candelario for 94.3 WYBC, the rhythm of the city. And today I'm going to be joined by mayoral candidate, Mr. Tom Goldenberg. Tom Goldenberg is running for mayor. Good evening, Tom.
Thank you, Jose. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on and talking some issues. You're running on a platform of multiple issues that you want to battle and take on during your tenure as mayor. Let's start with education. It's always in the forefront of all our minds, especially with the new superintendent being put in place. What other issues do you see, and where do you see the institution going?
Thank you, Jose. Education I consider as the top priority. And let's just take a step back and look at where we are right now. We know that only 13% of our kids are reading at grade level. I find that to be unacceptable. We know that we had 60% of kids were chronically absent last year, which was the worst
Mhm.
performance in the state, behind every other city and town in Connecticut. And we also know that this disproportionately impacts our Black and Brown communities, which represent more than 80% of the student body. So, in terms of what my vision is for education, I want to make sure that every school has an active parent organization that meets regularly. I want to make sure that we have a parent university where we provide parents with resources. I want to make sure that we have a focus on career readiness because I believe that you can't be what you don't see. So we need to expose students to different trades, professions, pathways, entrepreneurship, and then in high school, create the
Mhm.
opportunities for internships, apprenticeships, and certifications so that they can get a quality job. Right now, I think I was mentioning out of 44 schools that we have,
Mhm.
only eight, only eight have parent organizations. And so I think there needs to be a real effort by this administration to bring parents closer to be part of the solution.
I mean, how do you do that? How do you motivate individuals who are disenfranchised, who over the years maybe have tried to come and participate and provide energy, but the system wasn't there or they were not supported? I mean, how do you get those people back?
Right. Well, I think it's about, first of all, a mindset in the Board of Ed that we want to encourage parent engagement. I have heard from a surprising number of individuals who have spoke to leaders in our school system and Board of Ed that say that they are happy not to have active, engaged parents. And if you look at decisions that have been made, such as not holding Board of Ed meetings in person longer than any other school district in the state, not opening the schools after all the cities in the state did so, there's been a systematic effort to really keep parents at bay because it's afraid of criticism. So I think
Hmm.
first is changing that mindset of saying this is something that we want, we need, and we value. And
I,
then
I just want to touch a little bit on this because you're saying you want to bring back in-person meetings, but have you been to some of those meetings late right before COVID? I mean, they were very, uh, I don't know, they were very aggressive. So,
yeah.
and,
Well, that's what I
right.
mean. And they have started bringing back in-person meetings. It took a
Hmm.
lot of political pressure to get there. But the
Hmm.
fact is that these meetings are an opportunity for parents who have issues to meet other parents and to form alliances and friendships and build political power on their own. Shifting that to an online model and then waiting so long to bring it back, I feel has really disrupted the power of parents. So,
Okay.
I think that is I understand the concern that you want the meetings to run orderly, and I think there's a way to do that.
Hmm.
But the solution to that is not to shut parents out of the equation. And
Okay.
like I said, only eight schools have active parent organizations. I'm not saying that every parent, there's no mandatory anything, but let's
Hmm.
at least have the systems in place for parents to get involved. I have a 6-year old daughter that goes to school. They have a PTA. I
Hmm.
don't go to most of the meetings. Maybe I might go to some, but I know that it's there so that if I have a concern, that I know that I can go to a group of parents that can help me find a solution. And I think that every school should have that.
Okay. Now, the second thing that you really propose and you really want to advocate is training and job readiness. Having a majority of the individuals that are not college bound,
Mhm.
or at least even if they are, be ready to take on employment immediately upon graduation. But you got to get them to graduate. I mean, you got to,
Mhm.
and also you got to get them to come in.
Right.
Well, how do you, and again, we're struggling now to motivate disenfranchised individuals. How,
Mhm.
what is the incentive now that what is the promise you want to make to these children?
Well, we have to look at programs too. I mean, we don't have enough community centers. I spent a lot of time in the New Hallville neighborhood where there's a broad part of that community that doesn't feel like they have a community center. So, we have some neighborhoods that are doing well, like West Hills with a shack where kids can go. We got to make sure that we replicate that across the city, as first of all. Second, we used to have a very successful program called Youth under Mayor Harp, where we would identify the youth at risk and intervene before they get into trouble or involved with the justice system. So, for example, right now, we have a lot of issues with our youth getting involved with the Kia boys and Kia girls with car theft and other things like that. I believe that is driven in part by the fact that the youth stat program has been gutted under this administration. So I want to bring that back. But then when you talk about engagement in the schools, I
Mm-hmm.
think by shifting the focus to career readiness at an earlier age, I'm talking about fifth grade through eighth grade, you're giving students an idea of what they can achieve. And you're doing it in a way that does not necessitate a 4-year college program. Because let's be honest, like you just said, most kids, they don't see themselves going in that direction for whatever reason. It could be financial, it could be otherwise. And the fact is that the workplace has shifted enormously in the last 10, 15 years, such that it is not necessary to have a 4-year degree to get a quality job. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that as you start to shift that focus in the schools and you institute more of these additional programs that we could have or used to have, you will have better engagement with the students.
So you already, so you're talking about career implementation as early as fifth grade.
Well, like I said before, you can't be what you don't see. I grew up in a family in West Haven. I was raised by two teachers, and
Mm-hmm.
so what type of people did I grow up around? I grew up mostly with friends and family who were teachers, and so when I, was thinking what I would be, what did I think? I would be a
Mm.
teacher, right?
Okay.
And that's what I mean is if you just let things run the natural course, a lot of students aren't even aware of the opportunities that are out there. There are opportunities.
I want to take this a step further. Okay, I want to
Mhm.
just put it this way. So when we were younger, we could want to be policemen and firefighters, but it is very difficult for a person from New Haven to become a police or firefighter. I mean, do you see yourself bridging that gap?
Absolutely. And let's look at another thing, which is, this election is really a choice. There's a big difference. One of my supporters was at an event and said, "Listen, there's two white guys running for mayor, but there's a big difference." And this is a big difference right here, which is I believe in investing in New Haveners. This current mayor, his campaign staff is from out of state. He brought in a campaign manager from Chicago. He brought in some campaign staff from Washington, D.C. Are you telling me that as mayor, you can't find some good people that live in the city to work for your campaign? My campaign staff is fully in New Haven. So I think that's a mindset that for some people is just intuitive, but for whatever reason, this mayor has not focused on developing New Haven talent. So I think when you get to firefighters, when you get to our police, absolutely, these are good jobs that are provided by the city that we should be working to recruit our young folks in middle school and high school so that they're ready for those too. And this is also why I disagree. The mayor has pushed to change the city charter so that he can hire administrators from outside of the city. We have a rule that says if you want to be the city controller, if you want to be the head of economic development, you have to live in New Haven. I think
Hmm.
that's a good thing. And that's again, we get into a difference. I think that New Haveners are talented. I think that New Haveners should be invested in, and I do not feel the need to go to New Canaan, Westport, or wherever the mayor is from to get talent for the city.
Where the mayor is from. Wow, I thought he was from East Rock. But anyway, uh, uh, let's move on because we got a little bit of time left. Let's tackle. We talked a little bit about public safety and the relationship with the New Haven Police Department and they have with the community. How do you see yourself improving that relationship amongst other things? And where do you see where we can improve public safety here in New Haven, especially with the intermingling between Yale and the locals, because that seems to be a huge issue.
Yeah, I mean, safety constantly comes up as the number one concern of residents when we speak to people. What I'd say, we've had 19 homicides this year. It's a huge uptick from previous years. Crime has certainly been at a high relative to what it was under the previous administration. The mayor came into office. He immediately defunded or cut the police budget. Then he tried to get into a police chief that the community did not accept. So we've seen a series of missteps in this administration that's led us to where we are. And I think there is again, a difference in the ideology between myself and the mayor. I believe that every neighborhood's quality of life should be protected. And so that means that when we look at things like illegal drug use, illegal drug dealing, these things should have consequences. And currently, decisions are being made that I feel exacerbate the problems. I'm not sure if people were aware, but the mayor has put help to get $200,000 to put open a safe injection site, a safe drug site. It's a place where anyone in the state can come and shoot up heroin, fentanyl, and crack without any penalty, making it legal. And that's the mayor's plan for the city. I'm opposed to it because, one, I don't think the evidence has shown that it's been particularly effective in the very few cities that it's been tried. But also because I do believe that it will exacerbate issues. It will create an open drug market, and further worsen a lot of our neighborhood issues. So that's it. That's a perfect example of the direction that the mayor is going versus where I want to go. The
Hmm.
Hill is another example. On Congress Avenue, you've got the APT Foundation,
The App Foundation, yep.
the App Foundation, right across from John Daniels School. And they have been, when we talk to patients, we found that they are the only methadone clinic that doesn't require a drug test. And so people are coming from all over New Haven County. They're coming to
Hmm.
Congress Avenue, getting the methadone bottles, and then selling them on Congress Avenue for heroin and fentanyl. And this is creating more, again, more quality of life issues for the neighborhood. And why doesn't that change? Maybe because it's in a neighborhood that the mayor hasn't spent a lot of time or doesn't have a lot of support from.
Now,
I
I will say this: you have spent a lot of time in the communities meeting with people. So I mean, you're saying these things firsthand. These are firsthand accounts. This is what you're hearing from the public themselves.
Yeah, and I've tried to really understand the situation before I speak out. This issue in the Hill with Congress Avenue and the App Foundation, we spent a lot of time in that community, really in doing our research, including going to Harlem and visiting with centers there to see what was happening there.
Hmm.
So when I say these things, it's really thinking about, one, how can we address some of the issues such as drug addiction, but with respect for communities, particularly communities of color. Because if you look at the Hill and the way that that center has been continued allowed to operate in as a bad actor with the community. Or if you look at New Hallville and how they tried to open another location without any communication with the community, and the mayor's office was all behind that as well. I think that there's a lack of respect for communities, and I don't think that's not how I want to see our city governed. I want to see our city governed by working with the community, getting buy-in before going ahead with these things.
All right, so let's move on. Let's move on. I know we can sit here and talk about. I grew up in the Hill. I know all about the App Foundation. I grew up right there on Arch in Columbus, so I'm very familiar with the effects of the community and seeing that day in and day out. But let's move to a fiscal responsibility. Taxes are going up in the city. Mill rate, either the mill rate goes up or the property tax goes up. And it seems like, or one goes down and the other one goes up, exponentially. Uh, what kind of fiscal responsibility are you bringing to the table, and what do you see as a future for New Haven?
Absolutely. And before I jump into that, I just want to make sure I'm clear on what my solutions are for the previous question. I
Hmm.
will shut down the App Foundation on Congress Avenue because it's got to
Okay.
go. It hasn't been a good partner. And in terms of any new developments, I will actually be transparent with the community. So that's what I offer as a solution. In terms of the finances of the city, I mean, I think it's crazy that we haven't had a actual controller that's the head of the city's finances for over 3 years. So we had under Mayor Tony Harp, we had a controller. That person left very soon after Mayor Ellicker assumed office, and the position has remained vacant for more than 3 years. And so when you look at some of the things that have happened, the city lost $6 million of taxpayer money without any explanation. I mean, you have to ask yourself, is that why? Is it because we don't actually have the top role for our city finances? I
Mm.
believe that it does play a role. We had the largest settlement, $45 million in U.S. history, right? And taxes, we've seen the taxes go up in every neighborhood, but get this, in the primarily black and brown neighborhoods, that's the Hill. We just talked about New Hallville and Fairhaven. They went
Mhm.
up 40% in the last 2 years. And it's disproportionate because neighborhoods like East Rock, where the mayor lives, only went up 7%.
Mm.
So 7 and 40 is a very stark contrast. And the mayor will say it's not his fault. It's all because of an outside assessor. But listen, you're the mayor. At the end of the day, the buck stops with you. And if taxes are raised 40% in our black and brown communities, I think that's unacceptable. And so what I
Do you think the cause of the raising of the taxes in these communities because they're primarily rentals in those communities?
um I don't think that the assessor provided a rationale.
Hmm.
So I can't really say. They
Okay.
do an assessment every 10 years. It just turns out that there's a lot of large developments popping up that are rentals. I believe that the Independent reported that these were underassessed, and that single family and smaller multifamily were overassessed.
Mm.
So the large, rental developer companies, they got a bit of a break, but people that are in two or three family houses, which again is most of Fairhaven, New
Hmm.
Hallville, and parts of the Hill, they really got the short end of the stick on this one. And
Wow.
I think that this is just bad policy. I think that it's destabilizing to neighborhoods at a time when we need more home ownership to stabilize communities. And it doesn't just impact homeowners, of course it impacts rent, right? So if you're a renter and your property owner's taxes go up 40%, you can bet your rent is going to go up as well.
All right, we got a few more minutes here. We've talked extensively now about all these issues. Uh, y- what is your message to the people? You got, like a minute or so. The floor is all yours.
Yeah, I mean, I want to speak specifically to people in the communities that we just mentioned, people in New Hallville, people in the Hill, people in Fairhaven, people in Beaver Hills, in West Hills. I'm going to protect the quality of life of these neighborhoods. I'm going to bring back block watches, walking beats. We're going to bring back UStat. And we're also going to support black and brown businesses. I think that there is a need to really revisit our city contracting, because the amount that goes to local black and brown businesses is like a percent of a percent. It's so small. So we need to change
Hmm.
that. Again, let's invest in New Haveners. Let's invest in building wealth in our communities in Dixwell and New Hallville, in Grand Avenue and Fairhaven, in different parts of the city, in the Hill. And so I will be. Listen, I'm a no excuses kind of person. I see what the issues are. We need to build wealth in these communities. We need more business owners. We need more entrepreneurs. I see that we need to get our kids being able to read and getting prepared for the workforce. And
And and and that's one
I'm
of
going
those.
to fight.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but that's one of the biggest things. How can how can we prepare these youth to be able to afford to still live in these neighborhoods when they grow up? I mean,
Well,
that's a
yeah.
big challenge there.
Well, you need a good housing policy, but you also need jobs. And right now, New Haven could be having a lot more jobs. So part of my plan is to create tens of thousands of jobs over the next 10 years and make sure that we work with the state to train people for these jobs. There's going to be a lot of jobs, obviously in healthcare, but also emerging fields, climate technology, biotechnology, and a lot of these good jobs, you do not need a college degree. So we need to work with the state, making sure we're creating that pipeline, making sure that we diversify our employers so that we have options for these kids.
All right, Tom, your final word is what?
November 7th, come and vote. Vote for Tom Goldenberg as the independent line. Vote no for the charter revision. And you can get in touch with me, 203-212-8684, or Tom at Tom for New Haven. We need your support. We need your vote. Come out and vote.
All right. This has been a special edition of the Electric Drum. I'm Jose Candelario from Late Night Rhythms here for 94.3 WYBC, the rhythm of the city.